I'm going to do a series of videos and each one will follow on from the other. And what I'm going to talk about are carbohydrates, fructose, and wheat. So it'll take me quite a bit of time to get through all of this. So what we'll do is we'll break it up into 3 videos. So first let's talk about carbohydrates, and I'd like to give you a little bit of a history. So I was born in 1960 in Bendigo, Victoria. My mother was a great cook. For breakfast, we would either have eggs or muesli or porridge, depending on the time of year. Then for lunch, Mum would make our school lunches and I would have peanut butter, honey and banana sandwiches. We would have a chocolate chip cookie or a snickerdoodle or an Anzac. Mum was a great baker. And a piece of fruit. And then we go home for dinner, and for dinner we would have usually meat and vegetables of some sort, or fish and vegetables, or chicken and vegetable, and then we would always have dessert. And many of my friends ate that way. On Fridays we got to go to tuck shop, and Mum would give us money, and I would always buy a meat pie or a sausage roll or a pasty, and I would probably have a chocolate eclair, and that would be my lunch. If I had money left over, on the way home from school, I'd either go to the local fish and chip shop and get 5 cents worth of chips, or I'd go to Gillies, which was a bakery in Bendigo, and I might get a vanilla slice, just depending on if I had any money left from tuck shop. And this is the way we ate. And in the school I went to, there were around 600 girls. It was a girls' school, and I don't remember many fat girls in the school. In actual fact, I remember one, and the reason I remember, and I remember her name too, which is incredible, is that she was very unusual and there was a bit of teasing that went on. She was an Italian girl from an Italian family, and yeah, these are the things that I remember. Now carbohydrates, like if you fed your family like that, you would be seen as not doing the right thing by your family. But back in the 60s and 70s, the food was very different. The food was made from real food. So the chocolate eclair was made with cream, with butter, flour, sugar, salt, what am I missing? And chocolate. So they would be the things that it would be made of. Now a chocolate eclair, you can read the ingredients and you can see maybe 50 ingredients. The chocolate might be flavors and vegetable oil with emulsifiers or lecithin or something in the chocolate. The cream is not just cream anymore. It could be low fat, or it could be cream that's fluffed up with a whole bunch of other things such as gelatin and thickeners and all sorts of things like that. The flour, which we're going to talk about later, could have dubious chemicals in it due to agricultural practices. So these are the things that were very different back in the 60s and 70s. There was no grocery store. My mother would always buy things at the local fruit and vegetable store, the butcher. We had a little 4-square store that she might go buy a can of tomatoes or a can of corn, I don't know. We didn't have many tins. All she had was spices, flours, sugar, salt, cocoa, chocolate chips, fruits, vegetables, dairy. Okay, the milk was always delivered to us at our home. You know, remember back in the old day, you know, summer hour of the morning, you'd hear the rattle of milk bottles and they would deliver. So that was what our food was. It was straight from the dairy. It was straight from the butcher. We didn't have the huge grocery stores. And I think this makes a really big difference to how we handle carbohydrates today. There's a lot of diabetes, type 2, and it's used to be adult onset, but they can't call that anymore because our children have it. So carbohydrates in essence are a very, very important part of our diet. In actual fact, if we look at people from around the world, there are people that live in extreme climates such as deserts or high altitudes or high up in the Arctic Circle who lived on many meat products or products of animals. But when carbohydrates were available to them, they would eat those carbohydrates. And those carbohydrates were very important to signal to the body to put on fat, to survive a winter or for a famine or whatever else was coming. So they were very, very important. But carbohydrates today are not necessarily the carbohydrates they were. They could be refined, and they're not necessarily in the best of condition with the best of nutrition. In our next video, I'm going to talk about fructose, and I'm going to talk about the destruction of the microbiome and how fructose, once a food, like part of our fruit and part of our diet for eons, is now become, you know, something that people just don't want to have anymore. So I'll talk about that in the next video. See you there.